How are you?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're not in Yosemite,
I am still in Yosemite.
are you? Okay, so where are you? It looks like are you inside a building?
Yeah, I'm at my friend's house. We've been
Okay.
staying with a friend.
Oh, that's cool. Cool. So you have you recovered?
Not really.
Okay.
Not quite.
Okay.
We yeah, we're like 4 days, I guess, post triple. But we've been doing some like extra stuff because we're making a movie about it. So we hiked up to Half Dome yesterday. I was like, I'm not recovered enough for this.
Yeah, that's a hell of a hike, isn't it? It's what to the base of Half Dome or around the back?
All the way to the top.
Oh no. What around the back and then to the top? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's a full on
yeah.
day. Bloody hell.
It's pretty big hike. I we didn't start till like 11 a.m. But yeah, we were out there till the sun went down pretty much. So it was a full on day.
And then you have to get back.
Yeah, totally. The hike down, yeah, my legs are still feeling it for sure. I'm dealing with like light or like small injuries that kind of like come up with overuse. So that's been, yeah, making itself known.
Yeah, I bet it has. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a lot more questions about what you did last week. But I want to start from the start, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So this is the Climbing Fly Up podcast, and this is the 15th episode. And today's guest is none other than Kate Kelleghan. Is that right?
Kelleghan, but close.
Kelleghan. Okay. Kelleghan. Kelleghan. Cool.
Yes.
Uh, as far as I know, Kate loves crack, but not the drug crack. She likes covering a lot of ground in a short amount of time. You're an artist, and you seem to like the Power Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, the Power Ranger suit really is actually just the best climbing costume because it doesn't have frills. So,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you currently work for Yosemite Search and Rescue. Is that right?
not this year. I did for the past 2 seasons.
Okay, cool. So what did that involve?
Um, in general, or
Yeah, in general, yeah.
yeah, search and rescue is, I mean, most people have heard of it in some shape or form. But yeah, living in Yosemite, on call half of your time, ready to drop everything and go help rescue people, whether that's like most of the rescues we do is tourists, like hikers and that kind of thing, but then also like technical climbing rescues or anything technical on the walls or in the backcountry, would be our team.
Okay. So what's your what kind of regular call outs?
The most common ones that we get are folks who twist their ankles or break their ankles kind of
Okay.
thing, hiking. A lot of the trails here are like very slippery, like the granite. Have you been out to Yosemite?
Yeah, yeah, a few times, about five or six.
Okay, so you know, like it, the granite here is super slippery. People aren't really prepared for it. And then the other thing that happens is they push themselves way harder than they expect to when they come out and hike because they want to get to the top of the waterfall or
Yeah,
get to X, Y, and Z, and end up getting really tired or dehydrated, and that makes them a little bit, it makes them more likely to slip or fall or
yeah,
twist an ankle, and then they can't get down. So yeah, that's like the majority of the calls that we get, I would say.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy working for these guys?
Oh yeah, I mean it's like a dream come true. It was I was hanging out with the SAR team for a few years before I joined SAR, and I knew like I would have to do it at some point. I just like wasn't sure when. But I got laid off in the tech layoffs, and then I was like, okay, cool. I guess this is the time.
Okay. So do you have to do like an entry exam before you join?
Not necessarily. It is kind of it's a very tight-knit community here in general. And then the search and rescue team, the nature of the team is we're like 10 people living in really close quarters.
Yeah.
So you have to like get along with everybody and be like a good person for that type of community living.
Yeah.
So most of the people who join the team have great referrals or come from like the Tuolumne search and rescue team. So
Yeah.
everyone already knows them or that kind of thing. So like it worked out because I had been climbing with and hanging out with the SAR team for a few years. And what ended up happening actually was one of the people who was on the team, not last season, but the season before, left with like 24 hours of notice. So they needed someone to fill the spot. And they sent out a few messages to people who were good fits. And I was one of those people. So I ended up taking that spot.
Okay, wow. 24 hours. Okay. Sounds like something serious went on.
Yeah, for better or worse. I mean, definitely for better for me, because then I
Yeah,
just got
yeah.
to like
Yeah.
move right in there.
So is it a paid job?
Technically, yes. Um, the way it works is you're on call for half of your time. So half your days of a month are on call and half of your days are off call. And when you're on call, you carry a pager. And so you're ready to get paged at any time of the day. And
Okay.
when you're off call, you don't have to carry the pager. And we just all work it out amongst ourselves, actually using a giant whiteboard that sits in the middle of the search and rescue site
Yeah.
where we like mark days off. And when you're on call, you're not getting paid, but when you go on a rescue, you get paid. And how much you get paid depends on like what certifications you have. So if you're an EMT, you can get paid more. Um, the lowest certification would be like the woofer. So some of us were just woofers, and then some are EMTs.
So what's the woofer
Uh,
EMT?
what are they?
Yeah, what's a woofer?
A woofer is a wilderness first responder certification. So that's like a 10-day course you can take that gives you kind of like a basic like what do you do if someone gets hurt in the wilderness
Okay.
scenario type of thing.
Yeah.
So mostly it's like yeah, splinting, bandaging, like basic medicines, like what do you do for someone who has like X, Y, and Z. But it's pretty limited in terms of the scope. And then obviously EMT is more like you can do more things or administer more types of medicine and things like that.
Okay.
And then the SAR team works with paramedics who are seasonal here or permanent. And so like there's and also the cops as well. So there's more than just the 10 people on SAR that will respond to an incident,
Yeah.
but the 10 people on SAR are the people who are like the ones that like can hike really fast, climb really fast, like and carry people out from very far away places.
Okay. And you're one of those.
I was.
Okay, so that's where you get your, I guess, your speed and strength and stuff from.
Yeah, speed climbing is really popular amongst the search and rescue team.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why most of the, I'm guessing that's why most of the people that work for YOSAR, they go and that most of them are climbers, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So, what's the, I don't know. I'm guessing if you're involved in search and rescue, you're never quite sure what you're going to get, right? Um, And I'm guessing you're going to get anything from a sprained ankle to maybe somebody getting lost to some pretty maybe horrific kind of scenes that you get to. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's everything you can imagine from like we're actually staying with a friend who's a paramedic and like they get calls about people who spray bug spray in their eye. And then they're like, okay, rinse it with water. Like you don't need an ambulance to
Yeah.
like, yeah, people in Yosemite die every year. So our team is involved with like those kind of scenarios as well. Not as much, but yeah, the whole gambit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I'm not going to ask any more questions about that. Thanks. So how did you get into climbing? What was your first climbing experience like?
Uh, so originally, my dad is a climber, so he would take us climbing here and there. He was very much into it, like in Joshua Tree, and up until his like 30s when he started his business, he was doing a lot of climbing. But after that, the business kind of took over. So my first exposure to it was like as a kid. Um, but actually, like, I hated the outdoors.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I really like, I hated camping. I really don't like bugs. So as a kid, I like really didn't want to be around bugs. Like anytime they're like spiders are my biggest fear. So I
Oh
was like,
no.
this is awful.
Yeah.
Um, so as a kid, like most of what I was interested in was art. And so I did a lot of painting and drawing and like not doing anything outside. And it wasn't until college actually that I started trail running. And
Okay.
that kind of was like the gateway into the outdoors. And then I started climbing about my last year of college. And like I hadn't done, I was like not active at all. I didn't like sports. I thought it was too much pressure. Team sports just made me super nervous. And so I was like very non-active, like not athletic, and spent most of my time like going to music shows and like yeah, painting and drawing. Um, and then when I like finally found climbing, it was like I had found the thing that I had been missing, and like it just clicked. Like no sport or anything had ever felt like that, but trail running got close. And then once I started climbing, and the first climb I did where I realized it was the third flat iron in Boulder with my dad, and I was like, oh, this is the thing that is
Yeah.
so fucking cool. And so then I just like went full throttle. I like took a bunch of classes, and from then on out I was like climbing 5 or 6 times a week, just like obsessed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Well done for taking classes. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. That's not the way I went. I learned through trial and error, and my learning curve was a lot slower over a long period of time.
Hmm.
So your dad's done a good job, right? By passing on his passion onto you, because I've tried it with my kids and it has miserably failed.
Well, you never know. They could turn 22 and then just get obsessed with it.
Maybe, maybe, maybe. So, y- I guess you started climbing with. Did your dad teach you, or you went on some courses and your dad took you on some more climbs after that?
Yeah, like he exposed us to it, but also like he's kind of old school. So like some of his methods are like maybe not sketchy, but just like old school, I would say.
Yeah,
And I was like asking him to take me more after we went up the third flat iron, but he's so busy with work. And I was like, well, the next best thing is like, I don't know anyone who climbs. So I'm
yeah,
going to just like Google rock climbing courses. And then I found the cheapest one I could find, which was the Colorado Mountain Club. It's
yeah,
like a nonprofit in Colorado. And they had like a whole series of classes that was like basic rock climbing and then climbing outside and trad climbing. And I just like went through all of those. And that's how I met like some of my first partners and like mentors. So it was really awesome because then I learned from like AMGA certified people who taught me like, oh, you
yeah,
use like a backup when you rappel. Like my dad didn't wasn't using backups when he
yeah,
rappelled or
yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah. They just
Um,
wrap the rope around their bodies and that's it off they go.
yeah, I was like, actually, it's pretty sketchy, Dad.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the yeah, I always recommend that to everybody because it was such a great way to meet people who were also beginning. So you like had partners that were in the same like uh same level as you, but then
yeah,
like a great way to meet people who were like willing to mentor.
yeah. So what was it about climbing that clicked that you were like, yeah, I've got to do this?
Man, I don't know. Honestly, like trail running was really fun for me because it was like something that like kind of took over your mind while you were doing it. Like you
Yeah,
didn't really have to think about anything. You're fully focused on just like the function of your body.
yeah,
And climbing was like the next level version of that. And I don't know what it is about like climbing on like vertical faces is it's something that like not a lot of people will ever do, or it just seems like, yeah, almost rare to be in places like that. So I thought the combination of those two things was super cool to be able to like explore the more technical sides of mountains, where
yeah,
there's like less people and less traffic, and it's just like a more wild type of environment,
yeah,
uh, while like using your entire body is just engaged in it. Um, and I always thought that was like a pretty addicting feeling.
yeah. And your mind's fully focused in the moment and because doesn't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of climbers who don't just like climbing, but they're obsessed with it. And I think it's for the fact that when a lot of people go climbing, they are so focused in the moment, right? And if you get the challenge level just right and you're stretching your kind of your comfort zone for you as an individual, you're kind of in that level of excitement where you're fully focused and like you could be having I don't know, bad relationship stuff or financial stuff, but in that moment nothing else matters and it's it's escapism. It's I don't know. It's like therapy. It's and it's physical activity. It's like a great feeling, isn't it? And
Yeah.
your body produces so many like amazing chemicals in the moment. So apparently, when you end up in a state of flow, which a lot of climbers do, you end up producing five natural chemicals that equate to, I think it's a combination of heroin, cocaine, cannabis, speed, and Prozac all at the same time. So
Yeah,
that,
totally. I mean, there's also just so many different types of climbing. Like, I feel like there's a type of climbing for almost every personality. Like, there's speed climbing, bouldering, trad climbing, sport climbing, steep climbing, slab climbing, like, all of it's so different.
yeah. So what personality are you?
I've ended up in the speed climbing realm, although, like, I don't know if I necessarily chose that, but it
Okay.
just seems to be what I'm good at. So I'm
Okay.
terrible at bouldering. And
Okay.
I did a lot of sport climbing when I started climbing just because most people, that's like the most amount of, I feel like in Boulder, there's a ton of sport climbers. So it was easy to find people who were psyched to go sport climbing.
Yeah.
So yeah, started that way, but my heart was always in trad climbing. Like even starting with my dad, like I was always begging him to go trad climbing because I thought, I don't know, placing your own gear is just really cool. And like going out into like the wild places in my opinion, sometimes like a more of an adventure than the sport climbing crags. Although I love sport climbing too. But like for whatever reason, trad climbing always just seemed a little bit more wild and a little bit more like alluring.
Okay. So you've combined trad and speed.
Yeah, totally. I kind of fell into speed climbing. In Colorado, the Naked Edge is like a pretty famous route in El Dorado Canyon
Okay.
for speed climbing, and being in Boulder and climbing an Eldo a bunch, like the Naked Edge itself is just like a proud route. It's 511B, and known to be a little bit like stout and cool, kind of old school. And so like it was one of the routes that was like on my list to do as I started to like tick up through like grade levels. So like the first time I did it was like so psyched. Took us like 8 hours,
Yeah.
whipped all over it, and then like went back to send it like a few months later. And then my friend Eddie Taylor, who's like one of my good climbing partners, was had mentioned that people were like climbing this thing in like just two pitches or like linking pitches together. And he's like, we should try this. And I was kind of like, that sounds super sketchy. I don't know why you like why what's the point of that?
Yeah.
But he convinced me to try it and then turned out it was actually like super fun. And to finish the route in just like a few hours was like crazy to me.
Okay.
And then he's like, well, we could like, you can just like link the entire thing. These people are climbing it in one pitch, just simul climbing, because the invention of micro tractions means that like simul climbing, you can have the device between you that captures the fall
Yeah.
if the bottom person falls.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot safer, at least in our minds. And so we started climbing it fast, and that was kind of like a slippery slope into the addiction of speed climbing. Because when I got to Yosemite, it was just like, wow, these people are doing this, but on like a 3,000 foot wall
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's where it started. So is
Yeah, pretty much.
the naked edge, is it a trad climb?
Yes.
It
Yeah,
is.
there's like some pitons throughout it, but most of it is gear. Uh, yeah, it's a cool climb. It's like you scramble to the base, which is like two or three pitches. We usually either simul with a couple pieces of gear or just free solo it. and then it's six pitches technically to the summit. Um, and there's bolted anchors at like perfect inner, like perfect spots to put micro traction so that you can almost always have a micro traction between you
Yeah.
as you go up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's safe-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, and that sparked your, I guess you say you found yourself a niche with speed and like speed climbing, but where's your passion? So if somebody said, look, you can only choose one discipline in climbing, which is probably quite hard to do, what would it be?
Oof, yeah, it's hard. Like it's pretty split between speed climbing and free climbing. Like yeah, I worked hard for a few years to try and like climb as hard as I could, like picked harder and harder projects. And I had like a group of friends, we were all like, yeah, working towards similar goals in terms of grades. Um, but the funny thing about Yosemite is like once you come here, big wall climbing becomes a thing, and like focusing on big wall climbing kind of like takes away from free climbing. Like you kind of almost it's hard to do both at once. So I like kind of peaked at like around 513 minus, and then got into big wall climbing. It started to decline.
Yeah.
So I was like more focused on learning those skills instead and crack climbing. um, and then like ever since then I've been like up and down. I'm not as strong as I used to be sport climbing, but now I have the skills to like put it to use on big walls. So I did like tried to put it all together and attempted free rider a few years ago, which was a cool and crazy experience. And then like started to lean more into the speed climbing thing because I was just like better or is like easier for me than hard free climbing on big walls.
Yeah.
And yeah, with this our team, it was just like I had partners to do it, so I figured I might as well lean into it.
Okay. So I guess you're going to stick with speed climbing because it's what you're good at.
Yeah, I mean, now that the triple is over, I'm gonna get back into a training plan so I could try to get strong again. But
Okay, right. Well, have you got any sights on any other? So I guess sorry. Let's talk about because I keep going off on tangents. Um, but we'll get back to that. So you did the Naked Edge.
mhm.
When did you do the Naked Edge?
For the first time,
Yeah. Well, when did you get into like um, trying to work it as a speed climb?
it was like I want to say around COVID, like 2020
20,
through like
yeah. Okay.
2022. Like for a couple years, we were kind of speed climbing it just for funsies. There was a really good crew of people around Boulder. Like it was honestly just maybe one of the biggest things for me about speed climbing is the community is so fun. Like we're all just like super psyched on this really niche form of climbing. And
Yeah.
so like every morning in Eldo at like 5:30 a.m. before work, we would this group of people would show up and we would just like party train the Naked Edge as fast as we could. And then we'd come down and we'd all hang out in the parking lot for like half an hour and talk about like micro beta. And then we'd all go to work at like 9 a.m. And it was just like such a fun vibe and so random because like the Naked Edge is like known as one of the like harder moderate routes in the canyon. So like people in Eldo like come in and it's kind of like there's a few people on like the classic moderates like the Bastille Crack like 5-7, and then there's like some 5-10 stuff that's really fun and accessible that people can do before work. But then there's like 10 people who are climbing the Naked Edge like back to back, all
Yeah.
coming down and like spraying about it for a little bit and then running off to our jobs. And that was like such a fun like mini party vibe at like yeah 6 a.m. It was just like so random, and these people are all just like psyched on this one single route and like how fast we could make it and how efficient we could make it.
Yeah.
But it was like really fun. The same thing here in Yosemite, like the SAR team, like and the people who are speed climbing here, it's kind of a similar vibe. Like we all like love to talk micro beta about like what we're doing for this move and what we're placing here and how we're like making things more efficient or a little bit easier, doing things a little bit faster and like sharing that knowledge. And that's been one of my favorite parts about the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think COVID's certainly brought to light for me that I really missed and friends, and I think friends are so important. And I think the climbing community is just such a supportive group of people. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was maybe also one of the biggest things that hooked me on it in the beginning was growing up not doing sports or anything. I was like, I had my tight knit group of people that did like art,
yeah.
but I never had like a team of people that I was friends with. And so when I got dropped into the climbing community and met all these people right off the bat, I was like, whoa, this is like what it feels like to just have a built-in network of people who are like
Yeah.
sharing interests. And that was like, yeah, that was pretty cool.
I think the climbing community attracts, and I might offend a load of people by saying this, but I think that the climbing community attracts quite nerdy people. And I don't know, I perceive them to be like it's kind of changing but it certainly were kind of certainly attracts lots of nerdy people, and they're all kind of seem like slight outcasts, and they all come
Mhm.
together and they create their own kind of community.
Yeah, definitely most people are weirdos,
Yeah,
but
I
like in a
know.
good way.
Yeah, I'm sure my friends would agree with that. Yeah,
I mean, it's such an arbitrary thing.
yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I am on when I do these interviews, I am on my best behavior. So there's certain things I'm not allowed to talk about, suggested by my friends, because yeah, I don't want to cause too much offense. Um, cool. So you did the naked edge, and then at some point you climbed the nose for the first time in 2020.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I have all my mountain project pics to keep track.
I'm not going to test you on your dates.
I'm like, I think it's 2020. I'm pretty
Somewhere
sure it was
around
2020
there.
when we did it the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 2020. That's correct.
Yeah. You did it in 20 hours. Or no, sorry, actually you did it in a couple of days. Uh,
Yeah, first one was 3 days, and then I went back and did my first NIAD, which was 20 hours, like brutally hot, long day.
Wow. That sounds like hard work.
Yeah, it was during so the same partner who got me into speed climbing the Naked Edge, Eddie Taylor, uh we like we're both very psyched on speed climbing. We were like, we've got to try to do the nose. He had never done the nose, and I had done it big wall style, so I knew half of the pitches at least.
Yeah.
So we trained in Boulder, and like practiced short fixing and that kind of thing, and like had some friends at that point who knew a thing or two about it. And then we both he and I like he has a very busy schedule because he's a teacher and now has a daughter, but we organized like a weekend trip. So we were organizing trips to come out to Yosemite for like 2 or 3 days
Yeah.
and try to like we call them smash and grab missions. And so we organized this weekend trip to come out here to try our first nose in a day. But it happened to be during like some of the worst wildfires. And
Okay.
so when we got in to Fresno at like 7 p.m. or like 7:30, rented a car, drove into the valley. It's like 11 p.m. We just like parked the car somewhere random, like walked into the woods and slept for 2 hours. It was like 65 or 70 degrees at night, and the valley was just blanketed in smoke.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that's not good. But like we only had those like 2 days. So we slept for a couple hours and woke up at 3 a.m. And I remember thinking like how hot I was at 3 a.m. and that was like a bad sign. And you could see the moon, but it was completely red from the smoke. Like that also seems like a bad sign. But we went for it anyway. It was just like incredibly smoky and so like yeah, smoky and hot. We were just burning up. We brought like 7.5 liters of water, so we were really heavy and ended up running out of water towards the top. And it was just like, yeah, pretty burly, big day. hiking down was so awful because it was so hot. It turned out to be like a 95-degree day, I think, that day.
Yeah.
Um, but we got it done. We were so psyched.
Nice. So you've got you've got quite a lot of resilience, right? To push on through, um, yeah, being dehydrated, and I guess you get to a certain height and you don't have an option, right?
Yeah, it kind of was like we had some time cut off. So like if you get to Dolt Tower, which is about a quarter of the way through the climb, you multiply that by 4, and that should be about your time. So we were kind of just like, we're just trying to go under 24. So when we got there in like 4.5 hours, I was like, okay, sweet, like we're good. So we were just like psyched to keep raging on. But like obviously like maybe slow down a little bit as we got more dehydrated and more hot. And then Eddie was on sighting the top half of the route too, so it was just like another aspect. But yeah, ended up pulling it off, and yeah, it was still yeah. I don't mind a little bit of suffering as long as things are safe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah. That's cool. And how is that? Oh, I don't know. How is that as a oh, thing is like the society, and I know it's changing, but I think as society perceives women maybe to not I don't know, I'm not sure how to word it. Like usually when I say things, I say them wrong. Um, but I think society perceives women to not be like that, to not be like hardcore, able to suffer, like tough beings.
Yeah, totally. I mean, which is funny, right? Because like women do like the most painful thing in the world, which is giving birth to
Yeah, right.
kids,
Yeah.
and like yeah, I think that's just like a general stereotype that we're hopefully moving away from. But I mean, as we've seen in like the climbing realm and other like extreme sports, like women really have shown that. I mean, even like endurance running too, I think where like some studies show that women are even better at enduring like pain or suffering
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have so many badass women now in the spotlight, just showing like how good women are at suffering.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it's really nice to see. It's nice to see. It's as I've got both a son and a daughter, it's nice that my daughter has examples to look up to because that's it,
Totally.
isn't it? If you have as a young girl role models to look up to who are in the spotlight, who are tough and able to suffer and are very resilient, and that's cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I think like now it's my turn to maybe offend people, but like I
Please
feel
go
like
ahead.
yeah, there's like a balance between like not that women are bad at suffering necessarily, but perhaps like think a little bit more about the consequences of their actions.
Completely.
Whereas like
Yeah.
men, yeah,
Don't.
tend to be a little more risky and like kind of just say, fuck it, like
Yeah.
I'll be fine
Yeah.
kind of attitude, or
Yeah.
like I can do this. I don't see why I couldn't do this.
I think so. So what I've seen, that obviously my limited experience in what I see is that women like to make sure that they are very prepared for what they do, and they'll do all the work necessary to feel comfortable, to build the
Hmm.
confidence that they feel that they can do it. Whereas men tend to, in my experience, tend to just be gung ho and they're like, yeah, I can do this. Haven't had very little experience, and their confidence seems to be high, but their capability seems to be slightly lower. And then learn on the go.
Yeah, totally. Like the amount of times I've seen like men on LCAP who have zero wall experience and are just like up there just trying to like on-site big walling versus women
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. 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 Um, So yeah, you did the nose in 20 hours in 2020, and then you were like, maybe I could do this quicker.
Yeah, I mean that's the first as a speed climber, like I always know people are speed climbers when they hit the top of the route And the first thing they say, either at the top of the route or back at the car, is we could go faster. And that's like exactly what we were thinking. Like we hiked down and we're so like wrecked from the day, but then like the next day it's like, okay, here's like all the things we could have been faster on. And so then it was, yeah, I mean, it's just a game of like, okay, learn from your mistakes and like play it back.
Yeah. And try and reduce that time. Yeah, but it's funny,
Yeah,
isn't it,
totally.
how that climbers are obsessed with something about a goal, a route, whatever it is, and then as soon as they achieve it, they kind of forget about it, or they kind of move on and think, "Oh, right, okay, fine." I think it's the process, isn't it? We love that process, the process of working through something, and then once we've achieved it, we're like, "Oh, okay, what do we do now?"
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. Yeah, like it's almost like an exponential rise, or at least I've felt that way the last like 5 years, where I like climbed the nose for the first time and I was like on cloud nine, and I was just like, that's it for my whole year. I was like satisfied. I was like, I've done this thing that's incredible. Like, I'll never do anything cooler than this. And then like we do the Naiad, and I was like, wow, that was insane. I'm satisfied like for this entire year. Like if that's the only thing I do. And then like the next year, I was like, if I don't do multiple Naiads, like I'm a failure.
So
Like,
what do you mean by naiad? What does naiad mean?
oh, a nose in a day.
Ah, nose in a day. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. So you then did started to get better times on the nose, and then you happened to do what, the nose one day, and you were like, oh, let's do something else.
Yeah, I was, as I started climbing with the SAR team, it kind of opened up like partners for me who were
Yeah,
already climbing super fast. So I did my first nose in a day with Eddie, and that was the first for both of us. And then when I came back, I started doing it with people who had done it many times. So the times for me like got cut down significantly.
yeah,
And then I was like, oh, like let's go do Half Dome and like we can do Lurking Fear and these routes that my climbing partners knew and they already like knew of all the tactics. So
yeah.
like they helped mentor me in a little bit in a way that like I was already climbing some of those formations pretty fast for my first time. And then yeah, I had a friend who was interested in doing the El Cap Half Dome link up. It's called the double. And so we kind of like we're like, okay, let's like climb Half Dome together. It went pretty well. And then we climbed the nose and we're like, okay, if we just like go faster than 9 hours, let's just go do Half Dome too, because we know we can do Half Dome in like 7 hours.
Yeah.
And so yeah, ended up and I'm skipping a step here because like the first time I attempted the El Cap Half Dome link up, and maybe you have this in your notes, but I got rescued by search and rescue before I
Oh,
was on the team.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was
What happened?
I we climbed we climbed the nose and then I was still I mean at this point I had spent a summer in Colorado alpine climbing almost every weekend,
Yeah,
and alpine climbing in Colorado is like semi dangerous if it's stormy. Like in Colorado if storms come in you're like kind of fucked. Like it's like a get out of there mentality.
yeah,
And so I'd spent a season like that summer like really squeaking out days in the alpine where we like storms would be really close to us but we'd like be fine. So
yeah.
I built up this confidence of like, oh, like I can like maneuver out of like these like bad forecasts if we just play our cards right. And
Right.
so when I came to Yosemite, we planned to do the link up. I planned to do it with one of the members of SAR, and we there was like a storm that was predicted to come in that night at like midnight.
Yeah.
But we were kind of hoping to be like summiting or like on our way down by then.
Yeah.
So we climbed the nose and it went great. It was like, yeah, fast time. Temps were like cold but felt good. And then we ran down and we're like, okay, if we just like do this time, we should be like topping out on Half Dome, you know, before the storm really hits. So we went up and started climbing Half Dome, and the storm hit earlier than anticipated and with more force than anticipated. And like at the elevation of Half Dome, instead of just like rain, it was like full on snow. And so we were like halfway up Half Dome when we basically were like stuck in this blizzard. And because we were speed climbing, we were wearing like pretty basic layers, but nothing we didn't have big jackets or anything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we got to Big Sandy Ledge, which is about like two-thirds of the way up,
Yeah.
and it was so cold. And I just remember like, yeah, climbing, you have to like climb up and then down climb and then climb up again to Big Sandy. And I was wearing glasses, but they were non-functional with the snow. So I had to take them off. And then I was like in Mythos, but there's like 2 or 3 inches of snow already built up on the rock. So I was just like hand jamming as hard as I ever had in my whole life, not to like fall off of this part because there's just no gear. Because like it would zigzag too much.
Yeah.
So it's just like seeing my rope go into the blizzard with no gear and like yeah, it was quite scary. And we got to a point where the next pitch took my partner about an hour to lead, and like it was the coldest my fingers and toes had ever been.
Yeah.
So when I
So
jugged up to him,
how did you deal with that kind of, I guess you get funneled into, um, I guess, bad conditions, underprepared, and I guess you're climbing in snow, cold,
mhm,
and you can't fall right.
right.
There's just no option. How do you deal with like what was that? I don't know. What were your thoughts? What was your mindset like?
I mean, a lot of speed climbing is a no fall mindset.
Okay.
So I had gotten like pretty practiced at that. The naked edge also like it's not necessarily no fall mindset. Like it's safe enough that there are places you can fall, but you kind of like don't want to. And so I had practiced a lot of that, but also like, yeah, I don't know. And maybe it's from my dad because he has like a almost kind of like a part of him where he can like shut down the emotion and like just focus on like executing whatever needs to happen. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the kind of like mindset I go into in scenarios like that, or like, I mean, even on search and rescue, or like incidents I've been involved in where like you just don't really have space to like let emotions rattle you. You
Yeah.
have to just like focus on like, okay, what do you need to do to get through this safely? And like, how are you going to execute that? And just like being smart about it. Like, I feel like that's kind of the headspace I fell into, which was, yeah, I was like in the chimneys on Half Dome, which are like two-ish pitches of being between like walls like that, kind of that's like knees or feet on one side and back on the other. And I saw the snow starting to swirl in, and at first I was like, hopefully that's chalk. And I was like, okay, it's definitely not chalk. uh, and then it was like I was so tired, like, and we had been going since like 3 a.m. like the previous day,
Yeah.
but you just like tap into like that like inner calm of like, okay, you just need to like get to the anchor, like no falling, execute these moves. You've done them before. Like,
Yeah.
and I always think like human bodies are much like we have more energy than your brain wants you to believe.
Yep.
So I'm always like, I know I have a little bit more energy than I think I do. And you just like this is where you need to use it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
uh so yeah, that was kind of like it was just like, yeah, you cannot fall. Every hand jam I did, it was like I want 3 points of contact on at all times so that like any move I make, I have like backups with my other limbs
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
case
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
slips.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of
So is that your personality? Do you think it's your personality or a learned behavior where you're just able to switch off, or are you maybe not an emotional person?
I don't know. I
Are you able to compartmentalize things very well, put into boxes?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely am emotional, and like there are times when like I panic or like yeah, on even when we were doing the triple last week, like we had a 0% chance of storms both days, and both days ended up thunderstorming on us. And those were
Oh,
like there were moments where I was like, oh fuck. And I'll like vocalize that stuff to my partner. Like, we're gonna be totally fucked if we get rained on. Like, this is really dangerous. Like, being around like lightning storms in an alpine is super dangerous. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, and this is something like my dad did teach me, was like, it doesn't really help to just like be panicking or like, yeah, worry about that kind of stuff. Like, what you need to do is turn it into like rational action.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's like it's okay to like express the emotion, but then you need to like make decisions about how you're gonna like solve the situation and then execute them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's very that's a great trait to have. Yeah, I think not. I think some people might get into that situation and panic. But I guess if you've done so many climbs and you're high up on El Cap, I guess you're going to have a fair bit of experience, right?
Yeah, totally. The experience definitely helps.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how the mind limits what we think we can do when what the body can actually do. When we think we're at the limit, we still have more to give.
Yeah, totally. And once you've felt that breakthrough once, then you kind of like know it's in there, which is nice.
Yeah. 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 Unless it's off with climbing. That's a whole different ball game. I've got a couple of friends and they took me off with climbing a couple of weeks back. And I'm an okay climber when it comes to kind of face climbing, but I do like to work hard, and they threw me up in some off widths, and obviously having no technique and using brute strength didn't get me very far, but I did push myself to the point where I nearly ended up throwing up.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common story with off with.
Yeah, so I'm putting that down to lack of technique. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, like off with is the worst thing if you don't have the technique to get up it so hard.
Yeah, but it's like it's I don't know it's I don't know it's quite an acquired taste, but it's I think it's an amazing struggle, right? It's like
Hmm.
a full body and mind workout for like a very short amount of space. So you might work really hard for 10 meters of climbing, and
Hmm.
and afterwards you feel like yeah you've run a few marathons. Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly like, yeah, mentally difficult if you're used to speed climbing. Like, it's so slow. And yeah, it's like I struggle with that too. Like, there are a few parts on the routes that we did in the triple that are off with, and I just always hate getting to those parts and just like, yeah, trying to figure out the fastest way to get through them. But having a little bit of technique is such a game changer.
Yeah, it's having your mate climb the off width and then you jug up the rope.
Yeah, I do have a friend who is an off with aficionado, and so I'm psyched to team up with her on some things and put her on the off with, and I'll do the rest.
Cool. Cool. So you were talking about the triple. So you did actually let's go. You did the first double El Cap ascent. No, what is it? Second female team to ever do a double El Cap ascent in 2024
Yeah,
last
totally.
year.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what was that?
Yeah, one of the other women on search and rescue, Michelle Pellett, she and I started climbing together and yeah, made a pretty good team right off the bat, which was cool because there's really not that many women speed climbing at all. And obviously, she is also on the search and rescue team, so we're both very into it. Um, we had done a few nose in the days together, and then we did lurking fear, and it kind of just became obvious that like we would be able to pull it off. We had attempted it the year prior, my first season on search and rescue, but I had I actually had Giardia during that time. I
You
had
had
drank
what?
out of Giardia. It's
What is
like
that?
you get it from drinking water that's like contaminated
Okay, that sounds
in
awful.
yeah, it was terrible. It's like yeah, gastrointestinal, I think. So like you get super dehydrated, your
Yeah.
stomach's like super messed up. And yeah, you lose a bunch of weight. It's not great. And so we had we chosen a day that was like also 95 degrees. So we climbed the nose and it was so hot. And then hiking down, it was just like getting hotter and hotter. And I was feeling terrible. And we hiked all the way up to the base of Lurking Fear. And we climbed the first couple pitches, but I was feeling so awful at that point. We ended up bailing because I was like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to like perform on my block within a 24-hour window. And then the next year, we went back and we pulled it off relatively smoothly and without too much effort, which was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it was, yeah, it was
I can
like,
see I can see the excitement in your eyes.
yeah, it was cool because I mean, it's almost just surprising that you're like, whoa, we're the second female team to ever do that kind of thing. Because it's like if you speed climb, you don't have to go that fast on either route to do them in 24 hours. And, you know, a bunch of guys are doing those kinds of things like, yeah, relatively like easily. So, yeah, it was definitely cool though. It was like a big milestone too. Like El Cap Half Dome Link Up is a big one, and then Double El Cap felt like another big one to like tick off the list. Um, and kind of just like work towards more big link up goals.
Yeah. And then last week you did the triple,
Yeah,
which is
totally. That was all.
which is the nose, which is regular route on half dome, and then what I'm not familiar with Mount Watkins.
Yeah, the south face of Mount Watkins. They're just like the most classic routes up of each formation.
Okay, cool. So you did that in 20, what was your time?
It was 23 hours and 36 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So you must have been going hard.
Yeah, we definitely were.
Yeah. So that's an incredible. So you climb the nose first. You go down East Ledges, and then what? You drive or run to Half Dome?
So the way it works is um most people do the triple in June because it's the longest days of the
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
but in Yosemite is quite hot usually.
Yeah.
So the name of the game is chasing shade, and what that means is you start on Mount Watkins and you hike out there like very slowly and chill, and then Mount Watkins goes into the shade at 4 p.m. So the clock starts at 4 p.m. when Mount Watkins goes in the shade, and you start climbing like right then.
Okay.
Top out around like 8 or 9 p.m. And then you actually hike out to Tuolumne, and because it's a faster hike than hiking back down to the valley, and you
Okay.
have a friend pick you up in
Okay.
a car and drive down to the valley and then drop you off at the base of the nose, and you climb the nose, and then you hike off of that down to the valley again and then hike up to the base of Half Dome via the death slabs, and then climb Half Dome, and then the clock stops when you top out on Half Dome. So you take
Okay.
like the two biggest hikes, which are hiking to Mount Watkins takes like 3 hours or 3.5 hours, and then hiking off from Half Dome obviously takes several hours. So the clock doesn't involve those two hikes
Okay.
strategically.
Yeah.
And then you're in the shade or at climbing at night for the entire thing.
Yeah. Okay. So you had a good support network around you to feed you and water you and do everything they needed to do to travel from one to the other.
Yeah, we had over 20 people who were like in place at certain times to help us like carry some gear and water and drive us and yeah, make us food. It was really cool and logistically complex.
That's really cool. That must have been, I guess, my guess is that that must be quite emotional, right? When you're fully exhausted and you've got these nice friends helping you out and looking after you.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, such a cool feeling. We started on Mount Watkins, and like I said, we had zero forecast of storms, but then storms rolled in above us, and like it was thundering. And like right when I started leading my block, which begins with like a 5/9 R pitch,
Yeah.
like started to feel the raindrops, and I was just like, please just let me get past this 5/9 R pitch before it starts actually raining. So I know I can like pull on gear through the rest of this, but like there was a move on that pitch where I have zero pieces in, and it'd be a very catastrophic fall. And you have to do like a crimp, kind of like bad foot move. Uh, so that was scary. And then I was kind of just in like a stressed out zone for the rest of that climb to the top. But then the last few pitches, I started to hear my friends yelling, and
Yeah.
that totally like lifted some of the stress off to just be like, oh, like all my friends are up there. They're like, I was like, we're gonna be fine. Like we're gonna get out of this. It'll be fine. And then we ended up like climbing it faster than we ever had, and so it was like a big confidence boost.
Oh, cool. And then yeah, okay. And then when you did El Cap, and then you went and did Half Dome, were your friends waiting for you at the top of Half Dome?
So they would have been.
Oh, they're
We
too
drove down
lazy.
to no, I'll tell you what happened. We drove down to the meadow to start climbing the nose, and that was maybe like the coolest moment with our support team because it's nighttime and it's like 10:30 p.m. and we like pull into the meadow where like everyone hangs out, and we jump out of the car and there's like 30 people just like woo like felt like we were at like a marathon or something, which is so cool.
Yeah,
And then we climb the nose, and then we come down and we have like a few people ready for us at like 7 a.m. to drive us over to Half Dome. And then as we're climbing Half Dome, our 0% chance day of storms is turning into like 100% storms. And so we're like watching these like thunderstorms build around Tuolumne and build around the valley. And like I'm seeing lightning strike peaks around us. And so when we get towards the top, like no one's cheering or anything. Like it's silent up there. And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, well, either the rangers like told everybody not to come up because if there are thunderstorms, the ranger who is stationed up there will tell people not to go up.
yeah,
And I knew my partner Jack was like kind of organizing that group, and like he was on SAR as well, so he like knows to keep people down from there. So I was just assuming that like everybody had bailed because of the lightning storms.
yeah.
But then we did end up seeing a couple of them came up to watch us top out, and we like topped out, and my partner's like, okay, celebrate for 30 seconds and then like drop all of your gear. Like he's like, everything metal needs to just stay here and we need to
Yeah.
run down because the electricity on the rock was so high that like when you tapped it, it would like shock. They
Yeah.
were like feeling shocks through the bottoms of their shoes even. So we just, yeah, dropped all of our metal gear and ran down the cables. And then at the sub dome was where our whole crew of supporters was waiting. So we had like, yeah, 10 people who greeted us there.
Okay. So there wasn't a big celebration at the top. It was more
Yeah,
like
so
run
like
for your life.
it, it was a little bit like stressful and like, yeah, we like pulled on top of Half Dome and it was just like swirling dark clouds all around. And we were like, okay, like, let's grab these like metal rods to like down climb from the top of Half Dome. And then once we were down a little bit lower, the pressure like released a little bit. And yeah, my climbing partner's French, and her whole family came out from France. So like they were all waiting for her, which was really fun and emotional. And my dad came out, and so that's where everyone like greeted us and got a bunch of hugs and everything.
Oh, your dad must have been so proud of you, right?
Yeah, he was very psyched.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to watch his, I know you're not a little girl, but I guess to him, you'll always be his little girl, right? To see you achieve something that incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I
You
mean, he
must have,
climbed down Yosemite, so yeah, I think he's climbed the nose, he's climbed Half Dome over several days, but this is definitely next level for him, and he was really, really psyched.
yeah. Was he emotional?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, of course he was. Proud
yeah,
dad.
big softy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Cool. So, like, you must have been awake for quite a while after that.
Yeah, we were. I like I think we were awake for about 40 hours straight. Because I also just like get wired after days like that. So I didn't even go to bed till like midnight that night.
Yeah, of course. Well, you're excited, right? You've been like high on adrenaline, dealing with a lot of stress, and I guess you can't switch off when you're in the moment. And I guess you get back high on like excitement and people and whatever
hmm
else, and then yeah, and then I guess it'll take a while for you to for all that stuff to wear down.
Yeah, I think like yeah, it's just we were racing the clock the whole time. Like we didn't really know we were gonna be able to pull it off under 24 until the last few pitches. And so it was definitely like kind of high stress and really had to like dig deep again in like on half dome. Like we were time checking ourselves every pitch to be like, do we still have this? Do we still have this? Like, is there still a chance? And we just weren't sure until we got to Big Sandy. And I was like, okay, we have this now. Like, we know you can do these pitches in under an hour, and we have
Yeah,
2 hours. And that was the first moment we were both like, oh, fuck, we're going to do this.
yeah, yeah,
So that like mindset, like hours of just being like, yeah, on adrenaline or whatever, just like hyper focus and hyper performance, like took a while to wear off.
yeah, 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 yeah. So how are you like in those moments when things are really tough, like fingertips bleeding or super tired, hungry, thirsty? How do you motivate yourself to dig even deeper?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we were so it's kind of funny. We've been joking. We went to No Man's Land Film Festival and there was a film about Courtney DeWalter. You know her?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Pain cave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So we were like, wow, that's such a cool quote that she said about like building a pain cave where like you don't go in the pain cave and suffer. You go in the pain cave and you make it bigger and you make it more comfortable. And so the whole time we were training for this goal, we're like adding lamps to the pain cave. Like there's a couch in the pain cave now. Like the pain cave has like posters and art hung up. And so like yeah, hiking up to Half Dome, I was like, wow, my hands and feet are destroyed. Like it felt like they were just burning. And I was like, I just need to turn off like the pain. Like I can't feel the pain. It's like for 6 or 7 more hours, I just need to like not feel the pain or pay attention to it.
yeah,
And then like when it's over, I can feel the pain. That's fine. Like I don't mind being in pain. But like right now, we're just like, yeah, focus on what's gonna get us to the top of this mountain. And then like I got a little bit like complainy on the first 9 pitches that we signed. I was like, I'm so tired. I like my muscles are fatiguing, like failing almost. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be like pull off leading my block in the amount of time we had to basically PR on Half Dome. And but then my partner was like hyping me up. She was like, that's the fastest you've ever led the bolt ladders. And like, that's the fastest you've done this section. And I was just like, really? I feel like I'm going so slow. But it
yeah,
turns out she was lying to me. She was just like saying those things. But when
yeah.
she said
Okay.
them, I was like, maybe I still like have it. Like, and so that kind of bolstered me. And then when we got to the base of the chimneys, I was like, if I can climb these in a blizzard, like like 20 hours in or whatever, I can definitely climb them in like good conditions just when I'm a little tired. So pulling on that previous experience of like the double, I was like, okay, everything, like every ounce of energy I have now, I just need to put into getting to Big Sandy in 1.5 hours. And then Laura can take us to the top. So I just like, in that moment, just like dug in and was just like pulling on every tactic I knew for just like raging. I was like screaming and like you can pull on gear. So I'm just like pulling on gear. And then I'm like, my legs were just shaking. But I was just like, the faster I do this, the faster it's over. And I ended up climbing the chimneys like faster than I ever have. Just in that moment, just like really giving it everything. And then I got to Big Sandy and there was a couple people there. And I was like, what time is it? They're like 2 p.m. And I was like, wow, I did those faster than I've ever done them. And now like we have 2 hours to get out. And that was like the moment I was like, okay, like we can actually do this. And
Yeah.
I think for Laura too, it was like, we were like, oh, we're gonna do it. Like it just took a little bit of that, like, I don't know, even a second wind that we both got where we are like, we just need to finish this up and faster we do it, the faster it's over.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you managed to dig even deeper. Cool.
Yeah, I like hit a bit of a wall and then you have to like break through that. And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, actually, I do have a bunch more energy.
So that's incredible, isn't it? I think a lot of marathon runners talk about like hitting the wall, right? And I think it's incredible that you get yourself through that. Just I think it
Yeah, it's funny.
shows heart of character, and that must give you an incredible like confidence boost, right? To know that you think you're at your limit and you just keep pushing on.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing about humans is like you can convince yourself that you're done or like that you can't do it. Like it's so mental, right? Like yeah, I it really was like helpful that she was like telling me positive affirmations and
Yeah,
then to have the clock be the secondary like force of pressure.
yeah,
I think yeah, it was just like a uh good recipe to like kick me into gear to just break through that wall, that last wall, and like really give in to everything that I had left.
yeah, yeah. You're still sighing now, thinking about it.
I'm like, I just don't. Yeah, it's crazy that like, and then you just perform. And I'm like, why does my brain tell me I'm like my muscles are failing when they're not actually?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What is it, or is it the brain that somehow convinces like the body like the muscles are tired and exhausted, but the brain somehow like tells you to dig deeper, like. Yes. I mean, like on a smaller scale, like sometimes you're climbing a route and you feel that you're trying your utmost, and then somehow you've got maybe some people around you that are giving you some encouragement, and you just do that one more move that you didn't think you would, and it even surprised yourself because you thought you were absolutely exhausted beyond belief, and somehow
Hmm.
you get past it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's annoying. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
just stop,
Wouldn't it be
brain.
amazing if we could bottle it all up and like, yeah, get everyone to. I think it's. I don't know if I look at my own climbing, I think I've had a fair few like really high stressful experiences where I've pushed my both body and mind way beyond what I thought I was capable of because there was no other option. And I think I'm not saying people should go out and do that. I'm saying that's as a result of that, I do realize that I can push way beyond what I think I'm capable of in most
Hmm.
scenarios. Yeah. And
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not telling the listeners to go out and put themselves in those kind of situations.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like everyone deals with their own fears and like everyone's different in terms of how they experience emotions and like their risk tolerance and like stress and anxiety. And so yeah, it's kind of like discovering what's the right recipe for you to like break through your own walls and like where you feel comfortable pushing it and getting uncomfortable and like yeah, like there's obviously a too far like and that's where you can create like trauma, but
Yeah.
like there's like a middle zone where like you can push yourself, you can get uncomfortable and you can like be in the pain cave and it can help like just like tap into the extra like energy reserve
Yeah.
uh to like yeah push a little harder or further than you thought you could.
Yeah. Yeah. So fear. How do you deal with fear apart from boxing it up and putting it aside?
That's pretty much it. Like
Okay.
yeah, it's I think my solution for fear is just like trying to like pull the emotion out, make a plan, and then execute. And
Okay.
like for me, that's like that's the only thing you can do. Like shutting down or like panicking And also, like, I've been in a lot of situations where I've had partners who have shut down or panicked, and that just like also makes it worse for everybody else.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is also like keeping your partner calm by being calm,
Yeah.
I think is like pretty important. And like some people are better at that than others. And like sometimes, yeah, it takes practice and like training. I think that's one thing the wilderness first responder is good at training is like if you have like a training background, when you get into situations, you like they say you like sink to you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of training that you have.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of like prepare yourself for situations like that, like you're gonna get into situations where something goes wrong, rock
Yeah.
climbing, like rope gets stuck, rock fall, whatever. Uh, if you have some training in how to like deal with that kind of thing, or maybe it's even just experience, then you can fall back on that. And I think that's really helpful
Yeah.
instead of like panicking or, yeah, freaking out.
Yeah. So what job did you do beforehand? Or what job do you do now? Not before.
My job, yeah, my professional job is a designer. I started in like graphic design and then a little bit in web design, and now I do like UX and UI design, like designing apps.
Okay. Okay. So you techie.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess if you have that, I guess that kind of mindset, I'm guessing you're much more able to like put stuff in boxes.
Yeah, for my job, it definitely is uh, a lot of boxes and framing.
Yeah.
But yeah, systems and efficiency and stuff like that are helpful. There's
Yeah.
a crossover there for sure.
Yeah. So I read and I think you mentioned earlier that you have a fear of spiders. So how like
Yeah, big
so,
time.
so, yeah, so, something that I didn't know, right? Because like I guess I've been fairly oblivious to it. Is that you say that at night there's loads of spiders that come out on El Cap?
Yeah, totally. It's the worst. It's
Really?
like
I,
so
I've
scary,
I've
honestly.
experienced like are they spiders? Like I
Uh, yeah. In fact, there's like one thing you'll learn about California. I like in Colorado, this doesn't happen. In California, because it's like nice at night, all of these bugs come out on the trails and like on the walls. It's like not just spiders, it's like millipedes and centipedes and like weird and like silverfish and like mothy things. And then like
frogs.
these huge spiders, frogs. Yeah, totally. There's frogs all over when we did El Cap over the night,
Weird, isn't it?
which is funny because you don't want to squish them,
Yeah.
but
How do
I'd
they
rather
get up
touch a
there?
frog than a spider.
Yeah.
um, so the very first time I dealt with the El Cap spiders was actually when I big wall climbed it, and I had a total breakdown. I like stopped for like half an hour, I think, for like 20 minutes, hanging on a piece in the awkward 511 flare before our bivy ledge and like started crying because I was so exhausted. And the spiders on El Cap don't like, they're not scared of you. They like, in fact, when you like put your hands or like gear around them, they like will stand their ground to like protect their little hole or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I like couldn't get around this spider. Like, and you're in a groove that's like really narrow. So it was like you have to like touch it or be near it. And that was like almost too much for me. Eventually I ended up like pulling around it. But then yeah, took a minute. My partner said he felt my tears fall onto him. But yeah, the second time I dealt with it was when Michelle and I did our two El Cap routes in a day because we did Lurking Fear second. So we were climbing Lurking Fear at night. There's a pitch on Lurking Fear that's quite vegetated, and there was a bunch of them. They all like live in the pin scars and things that you like either need to hold or like put gear in. And at that point, I also paused and had a little bit of a meltdown, but only for like a few minutes. And then I checked the time and I was like, okay, we actually like, I just need to focus on the time. And I did the same thing where I was like, you need to shut out the pain and you need to shut out the fear and like just start climbing as fast as you can and like focus on the climbing. And like, you just don't see the spiders, like, you don't see them. And so, yeah, during the triple, the spiders came out of the great roof pitch, which I've never seen. But when you shine your headlamp into the crack, you see all their eyes light up, which is so gross. And
Yeah.
they're like big. They're like this big. Like their legs like stick out of the cracks, or like they just like hang out. It's like they're hanging out on their front porch. But like yeah, and then Laura, my partner, helped me again. She was like, "You don't see the spiders. The spiders don't matter. Like you don't see them. They're not there. You just need to keep climbing. Like they're not there." And so I kind of like, yeah, I'm just getting faster at putting the fear away and
Yeah.
like focusing on the climbing now, which has been, yeah, helpful with experience, but still is so gross.
Yeah. 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 So what do the people that you work with think of what you do?
Uh, it's funny. I worked at Training Peaks, which is like an endurance training platform. So a lot of the people I worked with were like ultra marathon runners and
Right.
cyclists, so they kind of like
Okay.
understood. Um, and then I worked I worked at Ironman, which was a little bit less of like a culture like that, and like there's only so much I can really tell people that they'll understand. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people don't even know what El Capitan is. Um, so they know I rock climb, but that's like about it. Like they're like, wow, you climb for like 18 hours straight. Like that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it is crazy. But I'm like, you have no idea what I'm like what I'm actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No idea that you're covering almost what is it, 2,500 meters of climbing. Yeah. You must have been
Yeah,
really hungry and thirsty after that.
honestly, like we treated it like an ultra marathon, and we had our snacks for the entire 24 hours like laid out. We this entire season we've been training like runners. So we've been training with like high carb drink mix in our water,
Okay.
and then yeah, like gummies and bars basically, and then occasionally a peanut butter sandwich. And so that was kind of like we trained for the day with the food that we would eat. And then we had like every mountain and every transition, different snacks that we were going to be eating to keep up with. Like we had met with a nutritionist in Boulder at Scratch Labs who kind of like set us up with a ballpark of how many carbs per hour like runners and cyclists are doing this type of thing with. And
Yeah.
so we were kind of like, okay, let's try to just like treat this like that. And so we kept up with eating and drinking as much as we could throughout every transition, every hike, and every wall.
Yeah.
So while you're jugging, when you like jug up, you put your partner on belay, and as soon as they're on belay, you're like trying to eat stuff.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was like refueling the whole time. So actually like we did a pretty good job, I think, of staying fueled for most of it. And the goal is to never feel hungry, you know? And
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever did feel hungry throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. But maybe adrenaline suppressed that feeling of hunger as well.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there were points where I was like, I literally cannot eat.
Yeah.
I'm like gonna throw up if I eat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the high carb drink mix, like drinking your carbs and calories was like a game changer for us.
Yeah. 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 So I guess it had loads of electrolytes in it. Make sure that your muscles don't cramp up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we never cramped, which was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. So you're very organized.
Yeah, very much so. Like definitely, like you're saying, women love to be prepared. Like out of all the triple parties who've ever done a triple, we for sure were like the most, we had the most Google Docs and like notes and preparation for it.
Yeah. So as it, I don't know, does it feel any different now that you've climbed a triple? Do you feel, I mean, I'm sure you feel a sense of achievement, but do you feel any different? Do you feel that you get treated differently by people?
Uh, I mean, kind of. We've definitely gotten a lot of folks reaching out, which is cool. Like, I don't know, I've been working towards this goal. Like, I've had the triple on my mind for years now.
Right.
And I felt like I knew it was going to be possible if the stars aligned with the right partner. But I wasn't sure that was going to happen until like last, when Laura and I met. And, but like for her, yeah, no, it's probably different for her. But for me, it was kind of like I've been living in this speed climb community of people who like are are really supportive. So they're like they believe in me and they're like, yes, you can do this. Like so it was kind of like I was like, yeah, I should be able to do this. And so when I did it, I was like, okay, yeah, I proved to myself that I can do this. But I also like it was almost a feeling of like,
Oh,
yeah, less like it's hard to explain, like almost hard on myself. Like if I didn't do it, I would have been disappointed and been like, I failed. Uh, because I should be able to, because I've been speed climbing for years,
okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how do you deal with failure, or what is failure?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like getting rescued off the double felt like we had, I had failed, like I had failed assessing the situation and making the right decisions. And for me, that was like, yeah, you do a little bit of like reclusive, like hiding out for a little bit and like trying to figure out where you went wrong. For me, like journaling helps a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then talking to people like helps me a lot, like talking to the people who are like involved, but then also talking to people who have like been in similar situations. Like after the rescue, I talked to like a couple people in Boulder who had been in similar situations and like it just made me feel better that like people like we are going to fail sometimes and sometimes we make the wrong decisions and also sometimes like you get in situations that are worse than you anticipated.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, like the number one thing for me is just like getting out safe. And so as long as I'm alive and well at the end of it, that's a success in a way. And then taking all of that information and applying it forward so that I don't get into situations like that again is how I kind of try to just like deal with the fact that like, okay, I fucked that up. How can I never fuck that up again?
Yeah, yeah, but it's learning, isn't it? Like I think in today's society, we sometimes perceive, yeah, I mean, what is failure, right? Failure is a point that we didn't achieve a goal that we'd set, and we're hopefully learning along the way, right? Like
Mhm.
if you learn to ride a bike, when you get on the bike and you fall off the first time you try and ride a bike, would you consider that failure?
Oh yeah, no, I mean like, well, if I think about it in terms of like climbing, um, like there are projects that I've had where like I tried it and just like got shut down. Like for example, there's a climb in Boulder. It's called Frayed Line. It has this like heinous V7 boulder problem at the start, and bouldering is like my nemesis. And
Yeah,
all of my friends were projecting it, and I went up there and tried it day after day, and I just like could not do this boulder problem. And they all my friends were doing it, and I just felt like, yeah, I felt like such a failure. I was like, this is not it for me. And I walked. It was the first project I ever walked away from, and was just like, fuck this climb. Also, sorry, I realized I didn't ask if I shouldn't cuss on here.
that's all right.
Uh,
You can cuss as much as you like. It's not for
okay.
children.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, if he has to censor this or something, it's going to be a lot of beeps.
Yeah,
Um, but I ended up like, yeah, walking away from it and was just like, I'm not strong enough for that, and that's okay. And like, put it on the back burner. And then like a year later, I had trained a bunch and like came back to it and was like, I'm ready for this now. And then like it like made it happen. It came together and I did the boulder problem and then I was like, oh, I can do this route now. So it's kind of like failure almost is not, yeah, it's not necessarily like a stop all. It's just
yeah,
like, okay, you've hit a wall for some reasons, like address the reasons if you want to, and
yeah,
then come back to it later.
yeah,
It's all part of the journey.
yeah. And had you not completed a triple in 24 hours, you'd have gone back and done it until you did.
Yeah, we had a contingency plan for sure. It was like, here's some cutoff times. And if this happens, then we'll do this. And like if this happens, we'll talk about like, yeah, taking 5 days to rest again and trying again. Like we had some buffer time too, which was like nice to think about because it wasn't a like we're leaving Yosemite like in 3 days. We have to get this done, which was really nice not to have that like time crunch too.
Yeah.
But we definitely didn't want to like, I was definitely really hoping we didn't have to do it again.
Well, yeah, staying up for 40 hours or more, like it's quite hard work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So two more questions and then I've got to go pick my daughter up. Um, what mental challenges in climbing do you feel that you have to work on? Or
Uh,
mental
I mean,
aspects? You can name one.
I think for I guess for me it's like working on the things that I perceive myself to be bad at.
Yeah.
So going back into like training bouldering and that kind of thing. Like I want to work on removing my own perception of like being bad at stuff. Uh yeah, if that makes sense. I'd like to try to like come from a place of like, yeah, learning and growth more than
Yeah.
like feeling like I'm already coming in at a disadvantage because yeah, it's like probably not true in a lot of cases. And like, yeah, I think it's just a bad place to start from in general.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you feel are your is like your mental superpower?
Hmm. Probably
I could
maybe like
I could
being
suggest
able to.
something.
Okay, let's hear what your suggestion is.
I think like the ability to, in extreme conditions, to be able to shut off your emotions and kind of deal with the objective in front of you.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely.
and I think the second one is the ability to suffer or switch off from the suffering.
Yeah, totally. I think both of those things have come in really handy. And yeah, I would say like for me, I think the thing that I consider important is like being able to also be lighthearted when either you're really tired or things are really serious.
Yeah,
Because that's like something that keeps your partner and the people around you calm. And like that's almost just as important as like being able to execute and perform in those scenarios as well.
yeah,
Like humor is like a great tool in general in life. And like in climbing, I really love weaving that in wherever I can.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Amazing. So what like one last question, what advice would you give other climbers about the any mental aspect within climbing?
Yeah, I guess I would say like don't be hard on yourself for feeling fear or panic or like making mistakes. I think like a really dangerous word is like should be able to do this.
Yeah,
It's really like yeah, it doesn't help anyone to say you should be able to do X, Y, and Z, but like focus on your successes and like yeah, be okay with like being scared. Like people are scared all the time and we work through it and like everybody's on their own journey. You know, we're all so different. Like comparing yourself to others and it's hard not to in this day and age with like social media and stuff, but
yeah.
yeah, it's okay to be scared and also like we can do hard things and yeah, make your pain cave a comfortable place and then that'll take you places.
I like that. Make your pain cave a comfortable place. Yeah, cool. Amazing. Thanks. I really appreciate your time, Kate. Yeah, it was just really nice to talk to you. Well done on your achievement, and I guess we'll keep following you, and who knows what happens. I'll hopefully be in Yosemite next year, so maybe our paths
Cool.
cross, maybe they won't. Yeah, but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
definitely
cool.
going back there next year.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right on. Cool. Thanks for your time. Thank you for listening, everyone. This was the 15th podcast for Climb and Flow. I hope you enjoyed delving into Kate's kind of mindset and listening to her story. If you have any suggestions on topics, please get in contact with us, send us an email or send us a message on social media, and we'll see you next time.